Okay, everybody.
Are you getting ready
Greetings.
for all your snow?
Okay, okay. Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the program tonight. Very excited about this program. We have a couple of very interesting guests. Give a quick overview. First, some housekeeping. We're going to be pressed for time on the normal hour and a half that we usually take. So therefore, we're going to keep the questions and the comments, try to keep them condensed. But don't worry about it. We are going to have a free form session starting at 8:30. Okay, so we can have more conversations. We can take it into various different directions, and I think we'll all have a lot of fun with this. Um, Now today I have two guests. I have Camille and Camille James Harman, and also Cuccio. They are both very interesting people. Been on numerous shows themselves. They also have a very interesting story. Um, and I'm going to let them talk about that. We have Maria has written a book about her instances that will be discussed. And Camille is an accomplished actress. She's been in a number of shows. She's won awards. She was in a show called Vice, as in Vice President. And it's about Dick Cheney. And Camille played, I believe, Mary Madeline, right? Okay. And she was in other shows as well. Maria is from Long Island. She's musically inclined. She was teaching piano. She also is an experiencer with a tremendous story to tell, and also a discussion about Long Island in general. I had my interesting instance from there, and Marie, I'm sure, will go into some of those details as well. Now we're going to start. Camille is going to be starting the thing, and we'll go from there. There will be a Q&A session. Everybody's going to have a chance to participate. Also, excuse me, I'm just admitting a couple of other people. Everybody will have a chance to participate. And at 8:30, we're going to go into a free form session. It's really going to be free form because I want people to feel comfortable and have a chance to participate to the level that they would like to. And we'll see where it all takes us. Anyway, Camille, please, it's all yours.
Thank you. So I understand we're focusing the talk primarily on the aspect of the breeding situation with some experiencers. So I'm going to focus on that, but my experiences are much larger than that and have continued kind of to the current time, till recent times. So, but I do want to focus on that discovery because that was the first uh, moment of clarity for me about all this. And then it started the whole thing rolling. So I'll go into that story. So I had moved from New Orleans to LA in 1995, in September 1995. And shortly before moving, my boyfriend and I, we were saying our goodbyes. You know, we really loved New Orleans. It was great, but we were both actors and we wanted to go to the next level with our careers. And it was really hot in the summer in New Orleans, as you might guess. And so I had some spare time and I went on my lunch break and I bought this copy of Whitley Strieber's book, Breakthrough, which came out in 1995. And it had an alien on the cover. So that was really my catalyst. And I always have to tell that story because some people say his book has that effect on people, his books with the alien face on the cover, like they feel a compulsion to purchase the book. And that's what happened. I was in this store, I had no interest in this subject matter, and I saw that book and I went, oh my God, that guy that wrote Communion, which I had never read. I said, I just saw the movie with Christopher Walken because I have a crush on him. So I said, he's still writing about aliens? Oh my God, I wonder what he thinks now. So I got the book and I read the book, and my mind, I was like, my mind was blown. So that was the summer of 95. And then we moved to New Orleans in September. And right away, we hit the ground running. Okay, you have to frame the background. I had just done a production of Richard III with him. He was Richard. I was Lady Anne. I had my master's degree from the University of New Orleans, my MFA in drama. I had my SAG card. I had credits. I felt like, I was in my late 20s. I felt like I'm hot stuff and I'm going to LA. And he felt the same. So we did that. So when we got to LA, he had a lot of friends. I ended up, we rented this house and it was on a hill. And I remember looking out the window at the view and going, this is a great house to see UFOs. Yeah, little did I know. So that was in Silver Lake neighborhood of LA, if you've ever been there. And everything started out great. Like we both got a good day job at this company, 1-800 Dentist, through some friends. It was like a call center, and it was great for starting out. And we had agents, and we had parties to go to, and I just felt so hopeful, like everything was going to happen. And but I also noticed that through those first few months, from September to like Christmas, I started having all these weird anxious feelings, and I didn't know why because I just felt really confident about everything else, and it was very unsettling. And I noticed I didn't have my period, and I was on the pill at the time, but I had no period for like September, October, November, December. And but I never went down to the drugstore and got a test. Like I normally, if I was 2 weeks late, I would run down and get a test. Okay. And but why didn't I go get a test? That was really weird. That was not normal behavior. And I was having sore breasts and just like all these weird bodily weirdnesses. And and then in December, he and I were walking our dog, Opal, and Opal started barking because this squirrel had gone up this palm tree and there was like a whole nest of squirrels up there and they were running around and she was going crazy. And so we looked up at the palm tree and we saw this craft in the blue sky in Silver Lake over LA. And because we were on a hill and we had the palm tree for scale, we could tell that it wasn't moving. And it seemed to be, it was really tiny. It was very, very high, but it seemed to be a triangle with a shimmer around it, like I would call it now a plasma barrier of some kind. But back then I would just say it was shimmering. It was black with a shimmer around it. And so I kind of got excited and he knew I had read that Alien, the Whitley Strieber book, and this other book since we had moved there. And he was like, you and your alien books. And I was like, shut up. What if it is a UFO? And we looked back. So we looked at each other for just a few seconds and looked back and it was gone. And we had the whole sky. We were like, okay, that's where did it go? We can't see it. We have the whole sky. It just disappeared while we weren't looking. And so I got really excited. I handed him the leash and I ran home and I actually looked in the phone book. There was a UFO hotline and it was MUFON in the phone book in the white pages back then. So I called them up and I said, I just saw a UFO over Silver Lake. What do I do? And so he took my information and I didn't file a real report though. Like I went looking for that day. Like, did I file an actual report? And I don't think I ever followed through with doing that, which is really stupid. But he said, we have these meetings once a month if you want to come. So I said, oh my gosh, I'm going, I'm going. So I went to my first meeting. I think it was probably January because of the holidays. And then maybe another one in February. Anyway, the first meeting that really shook me to my core that I went to there. And by the way, my menstrual cycle came back in January. Oh, wait, I have to back up. This is so important. Hello. In December, right when we saw that UFO, like sometime around that exact date, I went to bed at night and he was in the movie. He was in the other room watching a David Lynch movie. I don't remember which one. It might have been Wild at Heart, something I didn't want to see. And I was sleeping alone. And I had this attack of sleep paralysis that night. And I had had that very, very occasionally in my life, kind of scattered through, but didn't really pay attention to it. But this time I paid attention to it because what happened is I not only had this paralysis effect, but I had a voice say my name in my ear, like a mechanical sounding voice or a computer generated voice, Camille. And I was like, what's happening? And then at the same time, I had a flash image of a gun pointed at me. And so the two of those things together with the paralysis, I was like terrified. And I eventually came out of it. And then, I told him about it. I went in there and I was like, oh my God, I had this weirdest thing happen. And then later he came to bed and it happened again, the paralysis. But it didn't happen with all that, just the paralysis. And I started moaning and coming out of it. And he woke me up and he's like, are you okay? And I was like, I don't know. So that all happened. So then in January, my menstrual cycle came back. So I go to the MUFON meeting and I listen to Kim Carlsberg. And Kim Carlsberg, I don't know if y'all are familiar with her, but she worked in the entertainment industry as a set photographer for the show Baywatch. Okay. And she had written a book about her experiences. And Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, had done the illustrations for her book. So the two of them were there talking about her book. And her book is very intense. So she was living in Malibu with this guy from Baywatch who was either the director or the producer. And she was the set photographer. And they were having a great life doing Baywatch. And then she started having aliens walking through the walls and abducting her. And she was being taken to like an underground base, and she had a hybrid, and all this stuff happened in the book. And it blew my mind. And I had that feeling in that meeting, like, oh my God, I, I think I'm one of these people. I don't know why. I think I'm one of these people. And it just all came over me. And I had like a panic attack. And I remember she had her books at the back table. So after the meeting, I went to the back and I'm looking at her book and it had a checklist in the back. The book was called Beyond My Wildest Dreams, by the way. Beyond My Wildest Dreams. And I have it still. And it has a checklist in the back for men and women. Like, you may have been abducted if you've got these symptoms. And it lists all these things and you can read through it. And I was like, holy crap, I've got like 85 of these symptoms. And then I was really panicking. And I told someone, I mean, I probably told Kim, I don't remember who I was talking to, but they basically said, see that lady over there? That's Barbara Lamb, and she's a regression therapist. And if you want to set up an appointment with her, you should go talk to her. And I was like, yes, I think so. So I met Barbara Lamb that night. I scheduled this regression, and I had this regression in April of 96 at Barbara's house. And we targeted that night when I had the sleep paralysis. That's what I wanted to target. I was like, what happened? And so sure enough, I have this memory under hypnosis of this light appearing in my room. There were different colors, and then it turned into a blue, I call it a column. It was like a column of light that was very solid, and it felt like it had a bottom on it. And it came down, and when it hit me, I curled up into a ball, like a fetal position, and I started going through the ceiling. And I was screaming like, I'm going up, 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 you know, and I was just in terror. And then the next thing I remember is I was flat, I was on a table, and I'm in a room and it's all white and misty. And I didn't want to look around. I was terrified. I didn't want to look around. And so I never saw a spaceship, just to clarify. Um, and I just remember being in that light going through the ceiling and then being flat on the table in the new environment. And Barbara had to talk me through it. And what I remembered was a row of beings to my left that all looked the same and had long arms and big black wraparound eyes and white robes on with high collars. And they had some kind of pendant or clasp or something like at the solar plexus. And it seemed to me to be like uh, a triangle circle combo thing. And they were they were telling me to relax telepathically. And then my knees started going apart and I started screaming because nobody was touching my knees. And so I'm thinking, how are my knees going apart? And are they making me do that? Like, what is happening? And then this being I couldn't make out, it was like blocked from my vision. I couldn't get any visuals on it. I just knew it was there. And I saw another flash, like the flash of the gun. I saw a flash of a speculum type gynecological scary looking device. And I was panicking and Barbara asked, what do they want? And I said, I have a baby and they want it. And she said, well, if you're too afraid, you can go out of your body and recall this from above and watch it from up there. Do you want to do that? And I said, yes. And so I went up out of my body and I watched it. And this being put, the one between my legs, put this thing in me and quickly took it out. And there was a little piece of a little baby thing in there, like smaller than a walnut, small, but I could barely see it through the slats. All I saw was like pink flesh and walked out of the room with it. And I was just crying hysterically, like totally bereft, like Oh, they didn't even let me see it. And I just felt this horrible outrage and sadness. And then I came out of the hypnosis and we talked about it, and I had to go home with my little cassette and play it for my boyfriend, and he was like, "Holy crap, if this is true, this is like the worst thing ever. And if it's not true, it's the worst thing ever because then you're crazy or you're delusional, and either way it's really really bad." And I played it for my mom, and she didn't know what to do. I remember her specifically saying, uh, why can't you be gay like your brother? I know how to do gay. I don't know how to do this. And I just thought, wow, this is really hard for people. And later I asked my NASA uncle about it. He worked with Werner von Braun from the late 60s as a mechanical engineer at NASA in Huntsville. And later he would say to me, Camille, I don't know anything. And if it's true, it's NSA, and they're never going to tell you. So that was that. Um, so that's what happened. Now, there were many things that followed after that, but I will tell you some interesting things when I ponder what this is. First of all, I have never remembered being impregnated. So I don't remember aliens taking me and doing in vitro or sex or anything. Okay. Um, I wonder because of the timing of it, I did go to LA from New Orleans with a U-Haul and the whole thing by way of Sedona, and we spent the night camping on a Oak Creek in Sedona, which is now I know, I didn't know back then, very prominent for paranormal activity. Could be a portal or something. It's also got a secret base next to it. And so I think about that. I wonder about that. And then I often wonder, since I have the aerospace relative, NASA connection, and you hear these things about biology for technology, the deals were made where, certain people are allowed to be abducted because their family's part of the program or whatever. And I have had people tell me, like Nick Pope, I asked him about that. And he said, that's something I hear a lot. It's actually quite likely that you were in a program because of your uncle. Because I lived with him when I was a child, when I was like 2 to 3 years old, or 1 to 2 years old, something like that in Huntsville. And I might have gone to the base. I don't know. So there's that. And then I always was terrified of children, and I was afraid of having children. And I would have dreams of having, I had a dream I had a baby in a bathtub, but when it was handed to me, it was a puppy. So that was a weird dream that I had before all this. Another thing that's weird is my husband, who's an astrologer, who I met later, he looked at my chart at that time and he said, oh, well, at that time you had progressed moon in the 12th house and you had your Saturn return in the Saturn in the 12th house. And that signifies in astrology an awakening of your subconscious and also a restructuring of your life and all the stuff to do with like hidden things. So that made sense. And then but I did a regression to try to see if I'd ever seen that baby after that, like later on a ship, because I read about women seeing their babies and being told to hold the baby and all this stuff. I could not come up with anything like that. Um, when I got pregnant with my son, I was really freaked out because the symptoms I was having with that pregnancy matched the ones I had with the mystery pregnancy. So I actually called John Mack and I said, John, do you have any clients that had an alien baby before a human baby that I could talk to? Because I am freaking out like that this baby might disappear. And he actually gave me someone's number and we talked and then she helped me. But I thought my son was going to like disappear in the first trimester. I really had to get through into the bump, in the whole growing phase to kind of simmer down. I had extreme nausea in my pregnancy too. Um, and then there was the biology theory. Like I was wondering, is it because of my DNA? Like, is it something to do with being, Rh negative and Scottish, Irish descent? I don't know. I read all these things and I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of abductees that are not of that kind of genetic makeup and they've had the same problem. So I did start going to support groups and meeting other women who had this happen to them, all kinds of women, Black women, Jewish women, all kinds, not just, Celtic people. But I continue to wonder what that was and where that being is now. And then I researched things like MK Ultra and mind control and secret government projects and Epstein Island with his baby farms and his interest in transhumanism and AI and uploading consciousness into a new body and all this stuff. And I start to worry like, God, I hope, I mean, I'd rather be aliens than like a secret government thing where they took the baby and did weird experiments with it. I mean, hopefully it's some kind of hybrid. That's like actually a better scenario. So I really don't know what to think of all this. Those are all the things I think of. I have a hard time making up my mind. And I'm just throwing that out there for you guys to consider. Like, this is where your mind goes when you study this phenomena for a long time. It's been 30 years. And I don't know. That's my story.
Camille, have you ever had other paranormal experiences in your life? Or
Yes.
what about your parents? Has there ever been something that came down from like your mother, for instance?
Well, I think it's my matrilineal line, and the clues are both my mother. I was adopted, so my mother had me at 15, and her sister adopted me eventually after I lived with my uncle. So I was adopted around the age 3. Um, they're both very metaphysically inclined. They're into all this woo-woo stuff, A Course in Miracles, and um, Unity Church, and Robert Monroe and all this. So that alone right there is kind of a red flag. And here I am going to the Latin Mass. Like, I'm a bad Catholic. I go to the Latin Mass and I'm married to an astrologer. And I'm like, you guys are so new age. It's so ridiculous. I'm such a hypocrite. But I mean, God bless them. They're really sweet people. But and I don't want to be judgy. I don't know. I'm a Jesus person and I don't know. That's how I am. But anyway, beyond that, their mother, the rocket scientist and their mother, right? My grandmother, Mama Tess, who partially raised me, she was in the hospital once and she started screaming that aliens were in the hospital. And she was so terrified they had to call her Presbyterian minister to come pray with her. And the family got all mad at me. They called me out. You told her about all that alien stuff and put that in her mind. And now she's hallucinating at the hospital. And they were mad at me. And I said, well, maybe she was seeing aliens because she was on drugs or she was seeing through the veil because she was ill. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's real. Back off. So I think it's my mother's line. Yeah.
The reason I'm asking about that, you said a couple of different things that really resonated, and it brought back memories of things that I had experienced. For instance, you mentioned Werner von Braun. Well, right after Sputnik, my mother was an artist, but she also had some type of an experience before she had me. Uh, and she even described a craft that looked like a milking machine, the mechanical
Yeah.
milking. And but the thing was that being an artist, she graduated from Cooper Union, and she sent my drawings. I used to draw when I was a kid of rockets and jets and things like that. Now, my uncle he was an engineer with Grumman Aviation, and he was actually part of the design team for the lunar lander control system. And his name is on a little plaque on the moon right now. Grumman,
No.
they put the names out. Uh, but all these little things, especially with the you mentioned with the abduction experience and everything, that it seems to be linked back to the tie-in with Werner von Braun and NASA and things like that. I wondered, do any other have you come across other people that have had similar?
I
Uh,
do. I have met quite a few of us who have relatives in the aerospace industry or the military or intelligence or something. And I know that my uncle also he worked on like the Saturn V and everything. His specialty was vibration as a mechanical engineer, but my mom said he was also an electrical engineer. And his daughter right now is one of the payload managers of the space station and lives in Huntsville. And I do know that my uncle also worked on this STS. Oh gosh, I forgot the number. It was the one with the tethered satellite that they
Oh
let
yeah.
out, and then it broke and floated off, and it got swarmed by UFOs. He worked on that with the Italians. So it's a lot of interesting things.
Well, you definitely seem to have a tie into things that would be of interest to other intelligences, put it that way. Um, okay, as far as you have not had anything since your son was born, for instance.
Since my son was born, it's funny because when my son was a toddler, he walked over to a low bookshelf and pulled out my communion paperback and tore the cover off into like eight little pieces. And I came home and found that on the floor one day. And I was like, wow, of all the books he could have ripped up. So he says he's never seen anything, had any paranormal anything. But my husband has. And so I figure if he's got two experienced parents, there's eventually something going to happen to him. Hopefully,
Mhm.
nothing too scary. But he could also be suppressing some things that are not conscious to him because
What,
I
what
didn't
about
see
what
until I
about
was
ghosts?
29. Ghosts, he has not seen them. My husband has. My husband's very, he can see things. We both seen tons of UFOs, by the way, since then. So I have photographs of light phenomena with me. I have photographs of UFOs that I've taken when I was taking a picture of a mountain and didn't even know there was a UFO in it until I downloaded it. I've had that happen a couple of times. I've seen them in Tucson. I saw a big orange ball following an airplane in Tucson. I saw orbs over my church when I was praying because I had to go back to well, I got invited to go talk at an alien event up in San Francisco, and it was my first one for a long time because I dropped out and went Catholic for 9 years and didn't do anything. And I was praying at Mass outside under a tent, and I said, Jesus, if you're working with any good beings in the UFOs, would you please give me a sign because I don't want to make you mad going back into UFOs and talking. And I looked up, and there were these four objects that came out of the clouds, and I got it on video, and it's on my YouTube channel, so you can go look at that, broad daylight at church. So that was in
Weren't orange
2023.
orbs, were they?
They were white. They were
White.
white
Okay.
orbs and they were flying around and they came out right when I made that prayer. And I got it on camera and it's short because I was self-conscious. There were people behind me watching me filming the sky in the middle of mass. So I was like embarrassed. But so I do feel like things are still happening. I've seen a lot of things with Chris Bledsoe too because I'm friends with him and I've been to a couple of events where he's done sky watches and I've seen stuff with that group and got it on video. Um, so I would say that I'm not super intuitive. I don't well, I mean I am, but not in a obvious way. But then I did have one ghost encounter in Ireland this summer on vacation. And we went on this 12-day trip to Ireland, my friend and I. And towards the end, we spent the night at the Clayton Hotel in Sligo, which is a big old mental asylum that was converted into a hotel. It's like Tartaria. And I did have a ghost come at me that night. It was scratching my sheets, and then I scratched back, and it scratched back, and then it poked me in the arm, and I was terrified, and I started screaming for Jesus, and it went away, and and then I had to lie there. I was like, "I'm sorry, you're a ghost. You just scared me too much. No touching." I feel sorry for you. I pray for you, but no touching. So that was interesting. And it's funny because this big movie that's out right now, Hamnet, if you guys have seen it, it's brilliant, by the way, about William Shakespeare and his wife. Well, Hamnet is interesting because the man who plays Shakespeare is an actor, Paul Mescal. He had a ghost encounter at that same hotel when he was 12 years old, and he talks about it publicly. So when I watched that movie, I was like, you and me, we got to talk ghost stories. But that's it. I don't have that much. I, you know,
I mean, you have a lifetime's worth of stuff there.
well,
So,
but ghosts. I don't have a lot of like other paranormal, I guess is the word.
okay, here's what we're going to do. It's time. I'm going to ask Maria to step up to the plate and take a couple of swings. And what we're going to do, we're not finished yet. There will be a Q&A for everybody, but what I'd like to do is have both Camille and Marie's get their stories out there, and then we'll open it up, panel discussion, and also the Q&A. So, Maria, without any further ado, the
Okay.
floor is yours.
Wow, Camille, we have a lot in common. It was very interesting to listen to your story. There's a lot of parallels. And I don't usually start with this, but because you ended the discussion with ghosts, um, I'm going to start my story by telling the way I felt when I was engaged to my husband. He had a house on Long Island, Syosset, Long Island. And I always felt a presence when I went into that house. There was something about the house, and I would often talk about it. And I mean, doors would suddenly slam shut or faucets would turn on. It was creepy. But at the time, I was living with my parents, and I knew, we were to be married, and I was going to move into this house. On the day of our wedding, now I'm Italian. My parents were throwing a big Italian wedding. 300 guests were coming. I slept at home at my parents' house, and I said to everybody, I want a good night's sleep. I don't want any noise. Don't wake me up early, this and that. 6 o'clock in the morning, my phone was ringing, woke me up. I picked up the phone and screamed, "Who is this?" And it was my sister-in-law. And she said, "David," that was my ex-husband's name. "David's in the hospital. A car went through the house." So now I'm saying, "What, Dave?" And my first reaction is, "David got in a car accident?" She said, "No, a car hit a tree stump and literally flew through the house, completely in the house. And everything collapsed on him, his best man. There were two young guys in the car. So this was the morning of my wedding.
Oh my God.
Um, of course, I was hysterical and there was so much commotion. My parents ran to the hospital. They wouldn't let me go. Typical Italian, you can't go. I said, "What do you mean I can't go?" It was awful. The wedding went on. He was on painkillers. His best man was on crutches. It was a nightmare. It was, what a scene. But we pulled it off. And the next day we did go on our honeymoon. And our honeymoon was in Bermuda. First off, I didn't see the house. I was young. I was 21 years old, and everybody was like protecting me. "You don't need to see it. Smile, look pretty. This is your wedding day." And the wedding went on, and it was awful, to be honest. But we did that. We survived it. We went to Bermuda and we were shot. He was in a state of, hysteria, and he had a neck brace on. It was just all he kept saying. He said, "Maria, you don't understand. The house is destroyed. Everything I ever worked for." He's a chiropractor, so is also his office and the home. So we spent most of our time, in our hotel room. And one night we were making love. And all of a sudden, I saw what looked like a man at the foot of the bed. I mean, I screamed, "Someone's in here." And I literally shoved him off. He fell on the floor, and I swore I saw a man watching us as we were making love. And I jumped out of bed and I was determined. "He's here, he's here." I was running out in the hallway, there's a man here. There's a man. And he said, "What, are you crazy?" So anyway, I thought I was. I said, "Yeah, that is insane. How is that possible?" So you shake these things off, okay? At the time, it's like that had to be impossible. And then for some reason I said, "If I happen to become pregnant," for some reason I felt, and I said, "It just happened." He said, "How is it possible?" I literally threw him off the floor. I just felt this strange tingling throughout my body. And anyway, after the honeymoon, we returned. That's when I saw the house. It was destroyed. We had to move into his parents' house, um, and things just kept happening. So I always thought there was a ghost in that house. There was this presence. It didn't like me. It didn't want me to move into this house. And a few weeks later, I start feeling nauseous. I'm uncomfortable. I'm tired. And everyone said, of course you are. You're supposed to look at what you just went through. We had to move into his parents' house. I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, you're pregnant. So I was pregnant. And, but I did give birth. At 8 months later, not 9 months later, it was literally 8 months later. I wasn't even ready because the house was being rebuilt. It took 8 months to rebuild the house. We had just moved in, and then I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Now, that's just that I'm starting with that because later on, there's a lot that came out of that. Life went on, and a lot of things happened in that house. I hated it. I just felt a presence in that house. Even though we fixed it up, it was beautiful. It was better than it was, when he originally had it. But I gave birth to my daughter, and then time passed, and I wanted to get pregnant again, to give her a sibling. Now I was pregnant for a second time. I went for the 3-month checkup. And the doctor, we have when you're 3 months pregnant, a woman goes and you have an ultrasound and you actually see the fetus beginning to form. The spine actually forms at 3 months. You could see the fetus and hear the heartbeat. And I'll never forget that day. It was a powerful heartbeat, so strong that the doctor said, wow, this is a strong one. You must be having a boy. And I was happy. And I went home. And the next day, I was just in such a wonderful mood. And all of a sudden, I was struck with pain. And the pain was so severe. I literally collapsed to the floor and I was screaming. And my husband didn't know what to do. He tried to get me up. He said, let me, at least get you to the bed. And I couldn't. I was screaming, and he had to call an ambulance. So he got the ambulance. The paramedics took me into the ambulance, and they rushed me to the hospital. And when I got there, the doctor met me and he was examining me. And I actually felt better by the time I got to the hospital. I didn't have pain. Something transpired on the way to the hospital, like in the ambulance. I didn't know what it was. And I said to him, I think I'm okay. And he said, well, it's possible the fetus was pressing on a nerve, but let me just examine you. And as he's examining me, I'll never forget it. I said, doctor, I feel like I'm urinating. I didn't know what was happening. And he looked at me. He said, Maria, you just passed the fetal sac. And I'm so sorry, but you lost the baby. So I passed that. And of course, I was hysterical. I was crying. And I was there for several hours, but then it got to the point where he said, okay, you're okay. Everything's fine. Don't worry. You're a perfectly healthy woman. You'll be able to have more children in the future. So I was happy to hear that. Went home, went to sleep. The next day, I get a phone call. It's the doctor's office. And I'm told, Maria, you must get down to radiology immediately. And I said, what for? The doctor discharged me. He told me everything was fine. Just he needs to see you immediately. It was immediate. So I had to drop everything and I went down, and he starts doing an exam. He calls his assistant in. There's nurses around me and they're doing all kinds of sonograms, internal, external. And I said, what's wrong? What's happening? And then he looked at me and he said, well, you passed the fetal sac, but there was no fetus inside of it. He said, and we were concerned that the fetus was still inside you. It could have been an ectopic pregnancy, he said, but due to the fact that he just examined me and saw the fetus, heard the heartbeat, and then the very next day, I passed the sac, the fetus should have been inside. So Again, this was 19, like end of 83, 84. The doctor said, it's okay. You're perfectly healthy. You'll be able to have children. And life went on. Never thought much about that. I did give birth to two more baby girls, and life was just fairly normal until one night in 1992. I put the girls to sleep. Now they're ages 4, 6, and 9. At this time, we moved out of that house because I couldn't take that house. And we did eventually, my husband had kept it for his chiropractic office, but we moved out on Eastern Long Island to another house. Beautiful house. We had a pool, you know, 4 bedrooms. Girls, I was teaching piano at the time, put them all to sleep. So this is like 8 years, approximately 8 years later. And all of a sudden I wake up and I remember looking at the clock. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And it looked like there was a light on in the room. And I remember just rolling over onto my back and looking up at the ceiling and seeing a beam of light just shining, this great big white beam of light shining from the ceiling. And I remember looking at it saying, what the heck is that? And then all of a sudden my body started to tingle. And just I felt like electricity was running through me. And then I just felt this fast rate of myself being elevated, as if I was attached to this light, and I just went upward. And the next thing I remember, and this is all conscious, the next thing I remember is that I was on what looked like a spacecraft. I just, remember that's the only way I could describe it. And there were three beings. This is what blew my mind when you said this. There were three beings to my left, and I remember long hooded robes. I do not have conscious memory of the dark eyes from these beings, from this particular moment. But I remember light. It looked like light, but I remember the hoods and the long robes. And communication was telepathic. And I just remember the robotic voice, just like you had. And they said, look out the window. They were instructing me to turn to look out this window, this large glass window to my right. And when I looked out, I saw a huge group of children, many, many children, just beyond the craft and outside. And I remember this woman. It looked like a woman to me, but it was a bit distant. And she brought one child forth to come closer. And he appeared to be an 8-year-old boy. The size of an 8-year-old boy. And he had dark eyes, but he looked human. I would just say slightly larger than normal head. And I remember long, thin arms. We locked eyes, and I cannot even describe the feeling, the connection. See, I'm getting chills just talking about it to this day. This connection, and I felt this love, and it made me say, is this my son? As if I knew. And I heard, this is your son. And I said, what is his name? And the response was, his name is Elijah. And I just remember turning and looking at him. And all I remember is him with his arm slowly just kind of waving to me. And I was just overtaken by this experience. Now the beings basically told me as if I had a mission to accomplish on Earth, and that mission was to tell this story. And they said, it is time for you to go back now. And when we return you, we want you to look up the meaning of his name. Look up the meaning of Elijah. It was just like that. And the next thing I remember is my body's tingling again. And I felt myself going downward at a really fast rate of speed. And all I remember is like a pounding in my chest. And I sat up in bed and just felt like, what the heck just happened to me? It was so bizarre. And I was sweating and shaking. And and I kept hearing, but I continued to hear a voice, look up the meaning of Elijah. And I literally got out of bed, walked down the hallway to the end bedroom where I had a bookshelf. And when my children were born, I had a book of names. And I literally did it in that moment. I looked up Elijah and it said, the meaning of Elijah is the Lord is my savior. And I just like dropped the book and collapsed to the floor and cried for the rest of the night. And that is the moment in my life that has affected me so much that I cannot let it go to this day. That was my turning point.
That is an amazing, amazing story. Uh, Going back to a question, I'm looking for things that are similar, that are shared experiences, if you will. Um, Camille mentioned about her relatives being involved with the space program, things like that. I think you also had some type of uh, relationship with somebody that had a space background or engineering background.
Yes. Yes, similar to your uncle who worked on the lunar module. Because my ex-husband is an inventor of a device. He actually invented something for healing herniated disc conditions. It's non-invasive. It's a therapeutic device cleared by the FDA. So it's very intense, and there's hydraulic systems. So the engineer who worked on the hydraulic systems for the
Oh,
lunar module worked on the system for the device. The other thing is my father was in the army during the Truman and Eisenhower period, during the Cold War. And he was a sergeant in the army, and he also was a radio repairman. So, and he was stationed in Austria. So there's a lot of things that now during my research phase, all these years later, and I'm putting puzzle pieces together.
well, let me
Uh,
share this with you.
okay.
If he was in the Army and he was a radio repairman, he probably received his training at Fort Monmouth, which was the Signal Corps, then became Communications and Electronics Command. But
Right.
interestingly, also, somebody that Camille and I both know, Dan Harari, his father also worked at Fort Monmouth. He was an electrical engineer himself, and he worked on some very interesting things. Some things we may not know about. So there seems to be a weaving component to this, and finding things that are similar or shared experiences or shared background. It's starting to look that way to me anyway.
That's why it's important to do these types of sessions and talk. I was quiet for 30 years. I just kept journals and journals and journals because, there's so much. Everyone, at the time I battled, everyone thought I was schizophrenic when I told this story. I mean, I went through a lot. And so I had no choice but to silence
Yeah,
myself for 30 years. And I'm just starting to speak, but that's why I appreciate all of this. Like I said, it was you, Joe, who suggested I meet Camille. And that's why listening to her is just okay. Yes, yes, yes. What does it mean? We don't really, there's so many theories out there. I myself have met with Bud Hopkins. Do you know Bud Hopkins? Um, because it was the movie that the CBS miniseries called Intruders, which was based on his book, Intruders. That was a saving grace for me. I was scheduled to see a psychiatrist. Like I said, everyone refused to believe that my experience was real, but I had such a hard time saying it was a dream, that it was not a dream. And I didn't know much about all of this at the time. And when that mini series came out, like I said, I was scheduled to see the psychiatrist, and then something, some type of synchronicity. I happened to turn on the TV while doing laundry, and I see the trailer. I said, I've got to watch this. What is this? But it was based on true stories of women, just like you and I, Camille, with stories of being pregnant and then not being pregnant, or like with me, suddenly being told you're having a miscarriage and then seeing a child years later.
Yeah.
Like, is this,
Mm.
put that together? Like, how could so many women have the same delusions? It's just, no, something's going on.
Just to set your mind at ease,
Hmm.
and I can imagine what it must have been like for you. You feel like you're going your own, and people are looking at you like you have a problem.
Yeah.
My mom went through a similar thing too. She had a 160 IQ, and she had an incident when she was in, I guess, in high school, and it stuck with her, and it was painful for her for years because, again, you're separated from people that are, quote, have normal existences or don't share something as profound as obviously what you and Camille shared. So now also, I think this might be a good point to segue. I have a couple of people that raise their hands on the panel. Bruce Cornett, you had your hand up.
Yes.
Okay,
Uh,
quickly.
Maria, we met before in Long Island at a meeting around 1998 where you spoke.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I remember that.
Was that
Okay,
with Michelle Garin and
Yeah, I think so.
it is a small
oh,
world, isn't it?
we have to talk then because
I
yeah.
even have the pictures of you at that conference. So
Oh my goodness.
yeah,
You have to send that.
I
But
will
Send that.
definitely.
there are a million interesting stories here. I think you and Camille are going to a
Yeah.
lot to talk about and think about, and I'm sure we'll be talking again. Okay, next,
Wow.
Nick Curto. Nick, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Maria, Camille, just thank you so much. This was extraordinary. And for you to share that very intimate experiences you've had, just thank you so much for that. I want to ask you both, your parents or your grandparents on both sides of the family, did you ever remember them saying anything at all about something they saw or felt that seemed paranormal in any way? Any of your family members is there anything like that in both of your lives?
I have that. I asked my mom, my birth mother, if she'd had anything paranormal, and she said the only thing was she was trying to meditate one day for the first time or something. And she said she felt two giant claws come down on her shoulders. And it scared her so much she stopped meditating and didn't do it for years. And then my uncle, the NASA guy, when I said, Uncle Jack, this is what happened to me, and I got to know more. If you know anything, you have to tell me. And he said, it's NSA. He said, well, once when I was running, because he was a runner, he said, I went out of body and I saw myself from above while I was running. And that's the weirdest thing that ever happened to me. So that's what he said. So I don't know. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay.
One other thing I wanted to mention is that the book Intruders got me involved in this whole question of what's going on back
Hmm.
in 1992.
Mm.
Uh,
Interesting. Yeah, I went to see Bud at his art studio after that, and I was hoping he would give me some answers. He said, the only thing I can tell you is you're not crazy and you're not alone. And he said,
Well,
try to live a normal life.
yeah.
that book was by Bud Hopkins and Dr. John Mack.
Hmm.
And I've been aboard a shuttle ship with John Mack, and the shuttle was flown, piloted by my hybrid son.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So that was quite an experience.
Wow.
And when I got back to my house, the phone rang. And guess who it was? John Mack. And he said, "Are you okay?" And I thought he remembered his experience. And I explained it to him, and he freaked out
Wow.
because he didn't think he had ever been abducted, but he was.
Wow.
That's
Okay,
amazing.
okay, Beth Esch, you have your hand up.
Hi. Hi, Maria. Thank you
Hi.
for coming on and telling your story. I just had one question. Did you ever have any other communications with the aliens after your encounter?
What started to happen with me is I was told while on the craft that I had to compose music. Now, I said, but I don't. I was classically trained. I'm not a composer. I play classical music. And they said, we'll send people to you. So that's just the short version of, what has more details. The communication that started coming to me was during prayer and meditation because again, at that point my family, friends all thought I was crazy. So I turned to prayer and meditation. And while doing that, I started hearing music, but
Hmm.
also seeing numbers. So communication came that way. And I bought a synthesizer and then I started recording music. So all of my music, that became my career. I started a
Wow.
record label and I was recording and it was music for healing. And each of my albums, the CDs and cassettes at the time was music by Elijah. So I felt I was communicating with Elijah musically.
Wow. Can
And
you give us that information so I could
it's all
get
on a YouTube channel.
it's under your name?
Yeah, I have a website and I just post it up there, but you can hear it. So it was different. See, now there's a lot of meditation music, on the market, but then it there wasn't really. It was just typical, rock and roll, 80s music, disco.
Right.
So all of a sudden that was the communication. And the words, music is the universal language was given to me, and I had to communicate musically. So,
Yeah, I heard an interview from the lead singer, well, the second lead singer, Sammy Hagar, told a similar story about he thought he was
funny
abducted
part.
and then started playing music. And did you ever hear that?
Yes, I did. In fact, there's a book called Alien Rock, written by
Oh,
Michael
Yeah,
Luckman. I have the book,
great book.
and it's also on my author page. And it's about all famous musicians from Elvis Presley to Sammy Hagar to, Michael Jackson. It's all their stories. They opened up to the author,
wow.
Michael Luckman. And I'm actually, there's a chapter where he wrote about my music experience too. He was a good
Well,
man. Yeah.
that sounds great. I definitely want to see your website and hear that music, and I'm going to read that book.
And get the book.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
The
Thank you.
details are in it.
okay, John Ventry has his hand up. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, for Camille, I think the Latin Mass thing can be very important for you because the only way to repel aliens and ghosts, I mean, excuse me, the only way to repel aliens and demons are with the name of Jesus Christ. So if you could learn anything in Latin and also say it in Latin, it's twice as powerful when it's said in Latin as opposed to English, because that's the language that was used 2,000 years ago. So, so that's very powerful. But the other thing I want to say is, when you had that scratching and you thought it was a ghost and you said Jesus,
I said, stop in the name of Jesus Christ.
okay, that wasn't a ghost, that was a demon. Because ghosts, you can't repel ghosts with the name of Jesus. They have free will like we do. If they want to hang around and tap on the wall or poke you, they can.
Oh, interesting.
The only things that can be repelled would be a demonic entity because they can't be in the presence of the name of Jesus.
Wow.
So that thing was demonic. But again, think about, if you could learn the St. Michael prayer in Latin or just say anything, be gone in the name of Jesus. I don't know how you say that in Latin, he binds you and sends you. If you ever have a negative encounter, you can get rid of it. And I think I used to go to Latin Mass. I really need to go because there's so much power in the words because that was the original way. And during exorcisms, the one entity said to the priest, in English, she said, in English, that doesn't work. So the priest switched to Latin and he drove the demon
I have
out.
heard that. Thank you for reminding me of that. And I should learn something short and sweet for that
Yeah.
occasion.
If you could say it in Latin, that thing will be gone,
Yeah.
So for Maria, yours sounds angelic, though, encounter. Was there ever any that felt malevolent to you? Any of these encounters?
Yes, there were malevolent encounters for sure prior to that. And I did always think it had to do
With that ghost?
with ghosts
The shadow
or
man.
demons. Yes, but
Yeah, the shadow man.
I've always called out to Jesus, and just stayed strong in my faith. But there were a lot of experiences prior to that.
But the thing I wonder about is that when you saw the child on that craft, they didn't seem malevolent at that point, did they? So
No.
I mean, it almost seemed that was very nice and angelic. So my question that I wrote down was why, if it's angelic, angels don't take fetuses to create hybrids, but the encounters seemed positive, and then they told you to play music or whatever you had said, so I don't know. So my question, because I was thinking maybe it was angelic, but angels don't do that.
I love that you asked this question because, again, this isn't something that I just speak about because I like to stay on the positive side of
Yeah.
my experiences because I don't want to empower any negativity or create fear or spread fear. But there was a second miscarriage. The one before the one that I told my story. There were two miscarriages in between my firstborn and my secondborn. So the first miscarriage was just a 6-week miscarriage. But let me tell you this story. So I was, again, just a few weeks pregnant. We had gone to bed, put my infant child to sleep, and there was a bang again on this house. This is when I still lived in Syosset. I have so many stories about the Syosset house. There was a bang, and my husband jumped out of bed and ran out immediately and went to see what happened. And I'm thinking, oh my God, another car crashed through this house. I have to get to the baby. But I couldn't get up. I was frozen in bed. I was like paralyzed. And I was praying and praying, "Dear Jesus, help me. I've got to get to the baby. I have to get out of the house." Eventually, I got up, got the baby. He ran back up. And I said, "What's happening?" He said, "A car hit a telephone pole that was right by the corner of the house. And the telephone pole just landed smack on our front lawn. And there were, dangling lines." Anyway, I ended up having a miscarriage. I thought it was because of that. I couldn't prove it. So to answer your question, when I had the experience with Elijah, one of the things they said was, "We are not the ones who took your first child." And I got the feeling that they were showing me what the evil beings were doing. That was
Okay.
not done by our kind. So it was a matter of showing me enough so that I could say that's how it's done, because women lose the conscious memory, just like Camille. She doesn't have it, fully conscious. She went for hypnosis, and that's what a lot of these women are doing. They're going for hypnosis. For me, it was conscious. I was shown something
Yeah.
for the reason of this is how it's being done. It gets suppressed into your subconscious, and we all know that that's where evil beings, they play with the subconscious.
Yeah.
Okay, so I hope that answers your question. But again, do I have proof? It's just what I experienced. It was what I told. I don't often speak about that, but I wonder about that. I
Yeah.
wonder about it.
No, that explains a lot more. I mean, just quickly, I had something happen when I went to my first UFO conference in DC. For the next 4 nights, I had lucid dreams, out of body experiences, and one of them was I was in this kind of room that was a beige color, but there was a hybrid kid there, and he had his back to me. He was very muscular, and he was poking my Doberman, who was suspended horizontally in the air. And when he turned around to look at me, he had the very large eyes, but his arms were very muscular, but the bone was sticking out of the elbow, and he had like hair plugs.
Mm.
And at that moment, I felt that's my son. And that's the only time
Feel
that ever happened. I felt that was my son, but it didn't have spindly arms like the one they showed you. This kid had Popeye arms, muscular,
wow.
and I just wanted to say that since there was similarity. But you can do things like getting holy water, which you can get at any Catholic church, and you can buy holy oil and ask the priest to bless it, and then go around your house and put crosses above all the doors and windows and sprinkle the water and say some prayers. I do that periodically because I've had the loud bangs. I've had so much paranormal activity and around UFO activity that I firmly believe the UFO activity is demonic at this point.
Okay, I'm going to ask Camille.
Go ahead.
Would you like to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I think it's the big question is who are we to classify these beings and understand their limits? It's all very interesting. I'm not challenging you. I'm just saying
Yeah.
it's so fascinating. Like, because if you read Genesis and it says, let us create man in our image, who is this plural they're using? So then you hear these like creation myths like Enlil and Enki and the Sumerians and all this and doctoring and making genetic things. And then even geneticists now, they look at our DNA and they say, this DNA was cut and so it was put together by a creator. And so like what are these other beings in relation to God and us? And I don't know. And you have all these people with these angelic encounters. I had an out of body experience that was very pleasant. I met these angelic beings. They just enveloped me and I felt one with them. And they also told me when you mentioned about the mission, they also said to me, because I didn't want to go to Earth, I was a blue orb floating above the Earth in this out of body experience, which was hypnotically induced, by the way, with Barbara Lamb. And I didn't want to go to Earth. I was terrified. And the beings told me I had to go to Earth to fight evil. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do to fight? And they said, tell people we exist and we love them. And they showed me this image of this love coming from somewhere else through them, pointed at us, and we were all walking around with umbrellas. And they said, we're always doing this, but you guys are just like hard to get to. And it was very beautiful. And I said, well, what do I do? And I said, do I give lectures? And they said, no, you still need to act. And I said, really? Because I don't know how many movies get made about that. And they said, don't worry, we will set it up so that you meet people and make projects worthy of your time. So it was that whole creative assignment, that you got. And it was similar because the very next movie I did was about an angelic encounter. And then now I made the movie Vice, which was exposing, Dick Cheney and the deep state maneuvering going on at that time. And I've done other things that I'm not proud of and that are not on that path, but I'm always looking for those projects. I'm always looking for faith-based films. I'm doing some here and there. And I do a lot of documentary interviews because I want my story out there to just help people understand. Like
Yeah.
you're on a mission to. I also do public speaking, but I also continue acting. So that is my assignment.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say
Camille,
all
yeah.
my encounters have been negative. That's why I view it that way. But as far as what you said about in our image, nobody actually sees God. Angels are messengers. So when those encounters with Enoch and others in the Bible, they're encountering angels. And when they say it plural, like in our image, it's because it's the angel speaking. Our image, they look similar to us. But Moses, nobody has encountered God. You can't encounter him. And that's my understanding as to why that was plural.
Maria,
I
and
have
everybody,
a,
please
I have
look at the chat. I put the pictures of Maria
Oh,
in her pregnancy in the chat.
where is it?
Oh.
Oh, well, let me see.
I don't know if I'm doing it right either.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
I don't
Let's
see
use
it.
the meeting agenda. Wait, let me chat with AI companion. No, I don't.
There they are. There they are. I just hadn't pushed.
I don't see anything but the agenda, but that's me.
let's see.
Pictures are there.
Okay. Only certain people are allowed to see the pictures.
But
Joe,
I'm
you
just
got
so
it.
happy. I'm so happy that Maria had this conscious experience, and I've had so little conscious memory of things, and I think that's been to protect me from going crazy. So you're very strong to be able to handle the conscious experiences.
Well, it wasn't easy. Trust me. It was not easy. It was.
The chat again. I think it finally got sent.
Yeah, okay, I see it. It popped up here. Can anybody see it if you go into chatting?
Yeah.
I may not be doing chat right though.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Uh,
see it, Joe.
Okay. All right, let's see. Okay, if
But,
Mindy can see it, everybody should be able to see it. Okay.
Do you have to click view
know.
join info like to even be in the chat properly?
They've changed it. Every time I turn around, it seems like
It's all
they're
right. I'll look at her
updating it.
website later.
No, it's coming up.
Okay, I have a
Thank you.
question, starting with Camille. Camille, you mentioned at one point, uh, I guess the RH negative factor. Do you have any of the other, and I'm going to ask Maria to jump in on this too, but going back to Camille, you have the RH factor in your life. Do you have any of the other like I think it's the Basques. I think they only go back like 5,000 years, but it's also the RH negative factor, red hair, things like that. Is there anything that else that you can think of that
Well, I
is
have
applicable?
I have green eyes, and
Green eyes,
I
yes.
have hemochromatosis, which is a genetic blood disorder, which means you absorb too much iron from your food, and it's toxic to your organs. And the only treatment is to have blood taken out of you every 3 to 4 months to dilute your blood. And my uncle had that, the NASA scientist, and that's predominant also in Celtic DNA. The I don't know what that comes from though. It's so weird. So I have too much iron, not low iron. It's the opposite.
Too
I
low.
also have low blood pressure and low body temperature
I
normally.
have that too.
Mhm.
So those are my weird like medical things.
Okay, Maria, what about you? RH
I
negative
don't have the
factor?
RH negative, but my cousin on my maternal side, my mother's side is he has that. But I have low blood pressure and I was always told I was slightly anemic also. So
Okay. I think Bruce Pearson, did you have a question or comment? If you're talking, you're muted. Okay. All right, let's go down the list. There's a number of folks that have not had a chance to participate yet. Um, okay, let me go down here and Stanley, are you there?
Doing good. Camille, a couple points. First of all, you mentioned New Orleans. Um,
if you're there for a while and you get people to talk, this is very common. There's nothing new about this down in New Orleans. And to make it more interesting, if you go to Sedona, and I've obviously been to both places, needless to say, you hit a home run. So everything that you talk about is not strange. It's fairly common, but to get people to talk about it is a whole other ball of wax. Also, my wife and I went over to Ireland, Southern Ireland, and we did a castle tour. And one of the castles we stayed at, we were told that we were going to be in the owner's room. Okay, and this is a castle from 1800s, beautiful room. And once again, it was another what we call magical experiences. Things happen in life, and a lot of people really don't talk about them. And the thing about this particular castle was the fact that there was a book, and everybody would fill something in. And everybody who filled something in was meeting someone there. So through your life, you are going to meet a lot of different individuals. Who they are, we really don't know. But I think whether it's an abduction or anything else, if people felt more comfortable talking about it, I think this would be a conversation that would be like we're talking today. Not a big deal.
I agree. I agree in that I live a magical life, and I've had a lot of amazing synchronicities related to being in this world of the UFO, that I wouldn't trade for anything, and just beautiful experiences of knowledge and love and union, and like I went to England to see the crop circles, and I also wanted to see Sting's house because I had a thing about Sting back then. And so I went to Sting's house, and he was standing in his driveway. Like, a little car went through the gate and he was in the driveway. And I was like, oh my God, he's right there. And then the next day, I met up with Barbara Lamb, and she took me to my first crop circle in England because she's also a crop circle researcher and wrote a book about it. And so we go to this brand new crop circle and walk around in it. It was kind of drizzling, and that night we went to the Barge Inn where they do everybody hangs out and they have the aerial photographs on the bulletin board. And turns out my first crop circle that was laid down right after I saw Sting in his driveway was nicknamed the Stingray, and it looked like a stingray. And so I was like, they made that for me. They made that for me. End of story. So these magical experiences.
In life, there are no coincidences, believe me,
Mm-hmm.
as you probably know.
Mm-hmm.
This is all meant for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And we both could probably go on with stories for hours on end.
Yeah.
I
Thanks.
agree.
Joe?
How about you, Maria? I see you smiling over there.
No, I love, I think Camille is great. I just love listening to her with her stories. But I agree, synchronicities, I mean, just this, like you putting all of this together, Joe, and it's just this is meant to happen. Everybody who's here tonight, this is a great conversation. I can't believe you're doing this.
I'm having the time of my life right now.
Yeah, this is fabulous.
It's fun.
Okay, let's see who else has not shared. Mindy Gerber.
Hi, Joe. Yeah, thank you both to Camille and Maria for sharing your stories. Fascinating. I too am an abductee. My mother and I both had hypnotic regressions with Dr. David Jacobs. My mother did have conscious recall, much like Maria. I'm more like Camille. I had no conscious recall, but we both learned more through hypnotic regression. So, Maria, you may want to pursue that in the future. A question for Camille. When you missed your period for those several months, did you take a pregnancy test or no?
No, that's what was so weird. Like, who does that? Who waits that long? That's not normal.
Yeah, that's very unusual that you didn't do that, but
yeah. And I also want to qualify and say, before that all happened, I had never been pregnant that I know of in my entire life. So sometimes people would come at me and say, well, you must have had an abortion and you feel guilty about it. And that's why you had this big, like, weird experience where you processed it as aliens. And I said, that's kind of an intriguing theory, but I've never had an abortion. So sorry. So it was it was scary.
Yeah, I too recall through hypnotic regression giving birth to a alien baby, whatever, and being very angry that they took it and that I didn't get to keep it. And I remember through the hypnotic regression, the beings there were like taken aback that I was upset. Like I shouldn't, according to their agenda, I shouldn't have been upset about them taking the baby. They couldn't understand why I would be. So we had like a disconnect there. So I don't have any human children, but I recall from that hypnotic regression at least one hybrid or whatever baby being taken from me. So thank you, ladies. I appreciate you, both of you.
You're welcome. You know, I wanted to jump in at some point. This is a new thing I never have done in an interview, but I'm doing a documentary tomorrow and they wanted all this stuff from me. I actually have queued up, if we want to try it at some point, I have queued up a regression, like that regression, the baby regression. And if anyone's never heard of regression, it's pretty freaking scary. So, I mean,
You have it queued up right now?
yeah, I have it on my screen behind this screen, you know.
Okay, well, if you hit
Maybe
share,
later.
if
If
you
I
hit share,
share.
Camille, go to the bottom there, hit share. We'll open it up first and then hit share. You should be able to select it and we should all be able to see it.
Maria, was
I
the
have to,
doctor?
I don't know if I have to insert it or just play it while I'm in the Zoom.
Just play it, then go share. Hit share.
Okay, let me start playing it.
Maria, was the doctor for your pregnancy Bruce Rebold?
Hold on,
You recall?
I have to not screw up and close my screen. Hold on.
Okay.
I didn't want to interrupt. Yeah.
No, don't mind me. I was talking to myself. I'm sorry. I'm
Oh,
trying to do this
okay.
carefully without
Okay, Camille, just go to the bottom where it says share.
Okay.
Okay, and then when you hit share, it should play.
Okay. Oh, I'm just trying to look at. Okay, there it is. Trying to get to the toolbar. Okay. Share is the
Well, you might have to
green
go.
one. Okay. I hit share. And
Okay.
here's my screen. Here's my thing I open.
Okay.
There it is.
All right, here we go.
Um,
Okay, we see track 1 MP3.
okay, and then I open it and then it opens my Apple player. Okay, and then I can fast forward to where I want it to be, which is a bit weird. Right, he's sleeping. I lost my keyboard. You can move. Oh, I know. I have to get up to here. Sorry, hold on. I lost my start point.
Like they're pulling.
Oh, you know what I don't think. Okay, you hit share on the
Yeah.
selection screen, but I think what you have to do is you have to share when it executes.
Okay. I'm so technically challenged. So start it again and then go back to your screen and hit. I'm just
Yeah,
juggling all these screens with my cursor, and I'm afraid I'm going to jump out of the meeting if I don't watch it.
well, okay, you have it actually opened where you on a play screen, right?
I do.
Okay,
Okay.
stop the share, then restart the share, and then go to the play screen.
I don't know how to stop the share. Hold on.
Oh, just
Guys, I'll turn into a little sidebar. That's why I'm having trouble. Show. Okay, let me just expand it again. That's why. And then stop share. Okay. It was on. I think the share was stopped.
well, I'm still seeing your
No, we're
screen.
still seeing your desktop.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what to do. It's the green button, but I don't see anything saying stop. That's what's confusing.
Um,
Down at the bottom, you should see your share selection.
I know, but it looks
Yeah,
like it's not sharing. It doesn't say stop share when I hover over it.
well, just
Just click it.
hit the share again.
Just click on it.
Okay.
It should drop it.
Did that work?
Negative.
Not yet.
No, still seeing it.
Oh, I don't know what to do.
It says shared over on the left. Maybe you have to click that.
Or somebody else can share and that'll
Right.
override her.
Yeah, override mine maybe. Sorry.
Okay, I just overrode yours.
Okay, so are we clear on that now?
No,
Well,
she's
yeah,
still up.
oh no, it's still
She's still up.
Okay. Somebody has sent me a chat.
You have to send a request.
Oh, that's the picture.
there we go.
There
I
you
think
go.
I just cleared it.
You
Yep.
cleared it?
Click
Yeah.
Thank
escape.
goodness. I'm so bad at finding the stop share.
There's your
There it
screen.
is.
Yeah, that's
Share
not too busy.
your
That's not
computer
my
screen
screen.
now.
That's Joe's.
Yeah, that's fine. And then
Nice, Joe.
Bruce,
Closing all my screens.
Not too busy.
Are you
okay, wait a
supposed to see
minute.
my screen? Oh my God.
Okay, let's see. Okay, that's your share, right? Whose share is that?
That's yours, Joe.
That's you, Joe.
Oh, okay.
Welcome.
Stop share. I
Hello.
just
There we
did
go.
stop
Now we're
share.
back to original.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't
Now
do
we
it.
go
Try,
with
try it again, Camille.
I don't know if I
Oh.
want to do it again. I don't even think I have to. I think, can you hear it through my speakers when I just play it and it's not sharing?
Yeah, we'll pick it up to your
Well,
mic.
that might work.
That's what I was doing before. But I mean, we don't have to waste time on it. I played
Okay.
it. You guys couldn't hear it.
Why don't we do this? Kathy, are you out there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. I shoveled and I look a mess. Ladies, I want to thank you so much for being open and sharing this. I'm sure it was very hard in the beginning, never mind to go through the experience and then try to share with others. But it leaves open spaces for others to come forward and speak, which, in the long run really helps a lot of people and helps change society in their acceptance of things. So I really thank you for your bravery, and we're a wonderful, welcoming group here. And please don't have any hesitation of speaking or wondering later on, should I have done that? But no, you really did, and I want to thank you so much. I actually have a quick question for I believe it's John. John, is that a Knights Templar cross in the back?
Yes, it is. I was knighted in Northern Ireland 3 years ago. So I'm Sir John.
Well, Sir John, that's probably why all the weird stuff is happening to you.
No, this was just the past 3 years.
Oh, okay. So it happened to you before then.
The peak of my stuff was 2014 to 16.
Oh, okay. I actually went to an initiation, and oh boy, that was a weird afternoon with that person that invited me to go watch that. Yeah, let me tell
This
you.
is not the Freemasons. It's not Masons. This is a Templar group in Europe. They got priories in Northern Ireland, France, Hungary, and one other place. But they're the original Templar group, and it's small. They only got like 250 knights.
Oh, the
Okay,
Knights of Calabria.
Thank you. I'm sorry to venture off, but I just had to ask when I saw that. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
ladies,
Kathy.
again.
Okay, Harry Rainbow. Love the nickname you got there.
Well,
Harry, would you like that? There we go.
yeah, real quick. Thank you, ladies, both for your amazing stories. It's a lot to, I'm sure, go through and lead to some also long ways of stuff to discover. Maria, I wanted to ask you, you said when you were pregnant the first time that you saw a figure in the room and you knew you were pregnant?
So it was on my honeymoon that it looked to me like a man standing at the foot of the bed.
I'm sorry to bring this up if it's upsetting, but when you had the two pregnancies that you lost, was that male figure there at any point, either at conception or afterwards?
No, but I did see him again before conceiving my third child. That full story is in the book. That was hard for me to write about, but
Can only imagine.
yeah. So
Thank you.
there was a man at the foot of the bed more than once, and one night, it was what I remember. I mean, he appeared and I was saying who are you? What is this? How is this happening? And he basically responded, you're not doing what we want you to do.
Wow.
And then it felt like a tape recorder on, when you fast forward a tape recorder, the hissing. So it kind of felt like some kind of download going, through my mind. Don't forget, I'm from Long Island. There were a lot of projects taking place out there. I wasn't far from Brookhaven Labs. There was Montauk, the Montauk Project. So there was a lot, like over the years, a lot of research that I've done, and there's a lot of possibilities.
Absolutely. Okay, let's see. Now it's 8:30 right now. So technically I'm ending the formal portion, but I would like to keep this going because I know a lot of people have a lot of things that they'd like to get off their chest. And I think it's a good opportunity that we have fresh blood to share concepts with and maybe learn from each other. It's been that way for an hour and a half now. So I want to go way out of my way here and say thank you to Maria and Camille for both being good sports and also excellent teachers because I feel that I've learned something tonight. And that's a good sign.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, why don't we do this? I'm going to make one comment. Next month, I have another interesting speaker that'll be joining us, and his name's Jeff Cruikshank. Now, Jeff is an very interesting person. He was put in touch with me through Admiral Gallaudet, Tim Gallaudet, who you've seen on the disclosure program, a lot of different things. He testified before Congress. He was a Navy admiral who is a very, very strong proponent of underwater bases, non-human intelligence and underwater bases. So anyway, he put me in touch with Jeff, and Jeff is a security expert, top secret clearances, and doing a lot of work for the Australian military, also the commercial sector, and the U.S. military. Well, anyway, Jeff has also become the de facto expert about all the nuclear testing that had taken place in the Pacific Ocean over the years. Now, he has spent a lot of time on the last of the above ground nuclear tests, Johnston Atoll, which is a couple hundred miles to the south of Hawaii. We actually shot down a UFO with a nuclear explosion. Now, I don't think it was intentional, but it did happen, and he's got a fascinating story that he will be sharing with us. Anyway, that's the 29th, March 29th, same time, same place. So I invite you all to join Jeff and participate. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to open the floor up right now. Who would like to start? But again, still limit ourselves to a little bit of, 5-10 minutes tops. If you want to talk about something that you feel is important, that you need to get feedback from everybody, who wants to start it off? Raise your hand. Okay, Camille. Camille's hand is up. Oh, you're muted, Camille.
Really quickly, I put it in the chat. Last night, I discovered 3 really good videos on Mind Unveiled on YouTube. Okay, so write that down. Mind Unveiled. It's a channel. And this guy is a great researcher, and he put together from the document dump proof of Epstein's breeding projects, also his work with various researchers in the field of brain mapping, consciousness. What he seemed to be wanting to do was learn how to upload a consciousness into another body or into some kind of a field of knowledge, AI field or computer field or something. And put it in something else later. It's very sci-fi, scary, transhumanist type stuff, like to the next level. So if you're really interested in that kind of research and how he was financing it, it even has names like Diane Hennessy Powell with the telepathy tapes. He was interested in trauma causing expanded consciousness. He was interested in deception. These are the topics of the groups he was discussing. So it's very fascinating to see what he could have been up to with his creepy friends. And why does Mark Zuckerberg want to have your Facebook account still posting after you die? That's his new thing he's trying to sell people on. So that's really creepy. Are they talking about uploading our consciousness into something else? It's just terrifying. So I thought you could go look at Mind Unveiled and unravel that if you want.
Excellent. And that there was a whole raft of possibilities that touch on that too. You know, we can get into super soldiers, we can get into Montauk experiments, a lot of things that touch that. Good catch, Camille. Okay, who would like to start here? Okay, John Ventry.
I'm going to ask the two ladies to comment on this. That yesterday Trump said that he's going to release the UFO files. I'm hoping they're more interesting than the release of the Epstein files. But what do you think will be said? Let's start with Maria. What do you think is going to come out of this, if anything?
First off, we've been hearing this for so long, you know.
Yep.
But someone did tell me who had access to some of the files that there is a tremendous list of women who have had experiences like me and Camille. So what's in the files? Are we in the files? I don't know. So what is it going to mean even if it's released? I'm not sure.
Yeah, good point. Okay.
Well, I would say it takes people compiling and going through the files because there's so many of them and understanding what to look for and how to connect the dots because that's really challenging. But also, I do think Trump is going to be the disclosure president. I really have that feeling. I think that Trump is involved with very advanced stuff that could involve time travel and Project Looking Glass and things like that. So I think he knew the future, and therefore that's how he knew how to attack the deep state. That's my opinion. I'm a big Trump fan. So I do think he wants to be the disclosure president, and he will be very proud to be the disclosure president. So when Obama came out and said, yeah, aliens are real, he was like, I think it was Trump kind of going, no way, dude, you're not going to get that title. I'm going to get that title. So I think he's going to go forward with it, but it's not just up to him how quickly that comes out. And I think there's an order in everything Trump does because there's so much darkness to uncover and show to the people and prosecute. If you have a corrupt judiciary, you can't prosecute anything. So we may have to wait till after the midterms to impeach some of the judges that are corrupt so we can get anywhere with all these prosecutions, or it might just go to military tribunals. I don't know. But I just think that there's an order to everything Trump is doing, and he has to go in that order for all the dominoes to fall correctly.
Is he going to be the Trump-et?
Oh,
that was
very
bad,
good.
Bruce.
Very good.
Bruce, that was bad.
Yeah. I thought it was good.
Well, I am the cornet.
The cornet.
Yeah.
Okay,
we all know Kennedy tried to disclose it. I mean, Carter just openly spoke about it. Reagan tried to combine forces. You know, he wanted everyone to unite because there was something greater than all these countries, you know, so it's better to unite than to be against. I don't know. Trump will release something to look like a hero in my mind, but is it going to bring Elijah back to me? I don't know, because I feel these children are on Earth, not on a different planet. And now there was a wave of this taking place, not only with women, but with men who had experiences during the night with sperm being taken. So hybrids have been created, and I believe they're amongst us, and they're being observed. You know, there is these secret programs.
There's one thought, and I'll make it real quick. Something happened right after Obama made his announcement. Trump came back and said, "Hey, you've just broken a major law by
Yeah.
divulging something that was classified."
Classified. Right.
And that would be the stopper for him, because if he did the same thing, he wouldn't be able to throw rocks at Obama.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that would stop him. Either that, or he really doesn't have all that much information. First of all, what we're seeing coming out of Washington is a trickle of what should be a river. And so I'm not sure how serious anybody really is about full disclosure about the UAP phenomena. There are I was told there are thousands of reports just by military sources every year, and that's been going on for about 50 or 60 years now. So if you do the math and see what's been released and what hasn't been released, the numbers are pretty staggering.
Or Joe, maybe it's just a false flag. You know, they've had these hearings, they're bringing us along, and this is step number 8, where Trump says he's going to release. You know, it's all part of a false flag of what they're going to tell us, which is not going to be the truth.
You're right, right. Yep. Okay,
Well,
Nick Curto, Nick's got his hand up, and Harry has his hand up.
and Bruce
Harry,
has
you
his
first.
hand up too.
Yeah,
Just
I'll get
real
everybody.
quick, because it ties into what you're saying. There's also, because of AI and the fact that if you look at a lot of the YouTube sites, if you dig into it, a lot of them say this is not true. It's supposition. It's, to give you an idea, or it's entertainment. So these documents or whatever they're going to release about disclosure, there then comes the question of how much of it is actually real that's being released, or how much is theatrics.
Right. Yep. Okay. Let's see. We haven't heard from Bruce yet. Bruce Pearson.
Oh yes, Pearson.
Oh, yes, Cornet. If Joe, if I get started, it could go on forever. Several
Well,
things I want to talk about. I'll make it quick. First of all, I've been doing a number of interviews and worked with a number of experts on AI and, more importantly, quantum computing. So back to the idea of uploading one's consciousness. The scope of the 3 quantum computers that the Chinese evidently have right now will do the same computing necessary. These numbers are hard to believe, but I've interviewed experts, the best in the world, and AI is not only is it going to be totally upsetting for the world economy. Microsoft in 2024 did I put out a report that said by the end of this decade, between 30 and 50 million U.S. White and blue collar jobs will disappear. That displacement economically and financially and so on to society is bad enough. But the real issue here, I watched an in-depth interview with Musk several months ago. And I believe it was Sky News, and he said, "Listen, if you have children, don't encourage them to be doctors, because within 3 years, and I guarantee you within 5 years, any operation will be performed robotically to a level of outcome, or positive outcome, that will exceed the best doctor in that specialty in the world." But the quantum computing has power that's impossible to even comprehend. The fastest supercomputer would have taken, it's hard to believe, hundreds of thousands of years to compute the same computation, which was impossible to compute according to today's standards, in 5 minutes successfully. So the things that they can do, we can't even comprehend. And the latest deep intel, and I have a friend who only calls me on burner phones. The outcome of this will be, and I, having been in the business for 54 years and taught nonlinear editing and done documentaries all over the world, not the world's expert on anything, but I can tell you at this point in time, you cannot tell whether anything that you see or hear has been fabricated or is real. I can take it. You can go to Google Lens on your phone, pick up a picture, and have it do a statue of you, put you into various places on a phone, and you don't even, it's cloud computing, it's free. So the point we are moving towards, according to the experts, and this goes back to Klaus Schwab and the New World Order and however you want to look at it, but this control mechanism of the removal of sovereignty and this one world government. Oh, by the way, let me just tell you a quick aside. They just passed legislation in Great Britain that Oxford will become the first 15-minute city in England. And that'll be at the end of the year, that will be implemented. And it is draconian and scary, but it's real. So, but what will happen in this new world where we have 5 or 6 billion that need to be eliminated, according to Klaus Schwab's advisors, and a number of other people, including Bill Gates. By the way, the cornerstone of the Gates Institute, Gates Foundation, says it has on it the Gates Institute for Population Control, just as an aside, if you want to know what's behind all of this. They will have created a world and a society where not only are young people today not being trained discernment or critical thinking, but they won't have any viable evidence by which to determine what is real and what isn't real. So what does that mean? Well, it's the ultimate control situation where you will not. That's the real end game as far as I'm concerned. We will be worker bees, and there's so many things going on. Back to the question of your pregnancies and your presentations were very well done. About 25 years ago, I had an office manager, and I can tell you, I can't disclose her name because she never wanted to get into it, but briefly, and ironically, this was in Lambertville by your old employer's offices down there. She actually lives on Ferry Street in Lambertville. She had to leave my employment for a while. She had a pregnancy that wasn't possible, but she was, and I could give you all the details. It was the Helene Full Medical Center. They went in and removed this ectopic pregnancy, and this happens all the time. However, she related to me because she knew my background and what I was interested in. That the doctors came in after the surgery and wanted to know her background, even while she was coming out of anesthesia. The next thing she knows, there's a bunch of guys in military uniforms in the recovery room, and they're grilling her. And I said, and I won't tell you her name, but I said, "You got to be kidding me." She said, "No, it was the most bizarre thing I ever saw. I was still groggy, and they're asking me all these questions." 2 days later, they came in again and spent 6 hours. They locked the room. They had 4 or 5 people in there, a stenographer, a person taking recordings. And I said, "What's this all?" She said, "What's this all about?" And no, they wouldn't say anything. She had to sign NDAs. They threatened her. They said, "You will not discuss it." And she said, "I don't even know what you're talking about. I came in here because I had a bad pregnancy." So later on, before she was dismissed from the hospital, they had people up from Fort Detrick. She said, I didn't know. I didn't know anything about Fort Detrick, but they were there, and they started asking. And these guys were Air Force guys. So this got more bizarre all the time. So we should document this. She said, "No, they scared the hell out of me. I don't want to have anything to do with this. It's bad enough I went through this physically." But one of the texts that she saw in the hospital said, "Lady, I'm going to tell you something. They said to me, and I had to sign all kinds of papers, but they said they removed an alien baby from your body." Now, I can tell. I speak to the woman every couple months. She still remains a close friend, but I mean, this had her in tears when she was talking to me about it, and I have brought it up about every 5 years. I say, "Hey, are you interested?" She's no. She said, "Maybe on my deathbed," but she breaks down and starts crying again. And this guy said they took an alien baby out of there, and he said, "I know because I documented it. I took the photos. They took everything from me, and they threatened me if I said anything." He said, "So don't think you're losing your mind because I saw what they put you through." This was Helene Full Medical Center in Trenton. I can give you all the details that she related to me, but I just wanted to reaffirm that you're not the only ones that are going through this kind of stuff. And it is the most bizarre story, and I had to respect her privacy. On another issue with regression therapy, Joe knows this story. Jaime Musan and I were the only ones invited to a regression documentation at Loveland, Colorado, a number of years ago. Leo Sprinkle provided the regression for Stan Romanek. We were there for 3 days with him on this retreat center. It was the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. Now that I don't know whether Mark held on to that footage. It's never been released, and I'm telling you, it was not funny to listen to Stan go through that for hour after hour. And I had to record it, and Jaime was there. We were the only journalists there for it. I also worked with David. We did a regression in at Drexel University, a private regression, and he had me tape it. Can't think of his last name now. I guess it's been a long day, but
David Jacobs?
David Jacobs. Yeah, we did a presentation down in Ringo's, New Jersey, down there by Flemington, and then he asked me to come down and tape it and certify the video hadn't been altered and stuff, and that was very, very creepy. That was a young lady from Wilmington, Delaware that we did. So I have some experience in that, but I can tell you this quantum computing and AI is beyond anything we can imagine. And it's not the end of the decade. Now they're saying 6 months to 18 months, this stuff is going to roll out. ChatGPT 5 has the equivalent IQ of 5,000, where Einstein was 150, 160, as Joe related, his mom was 160. We are going to be looked at as parasites by these devices at a very rapid rate. I've said enough. I'll be quiet.
Thanks, Bruce. Okay, Nick Curto, and then Bruce Cornett.
Okay, this will be real quick, but I just wanted to put this on the table. Sorry, because this keeps going into my mind a lot, and it kind of references the fact that everyone who's spoken here at some point references almost religious sort of things. We're talking Jesus, we're talking spirits, we're talking demons, all that stuff. And how does that really work? Again, I don't have the answers at all for this, but there's this in the back of all of this. We're talking about uh, beings from other planets. Then who is Jesus, and how does Jesus relate to any of this? Or I'm just saying that this goes in my mind a lot. It's a huge question, but I just want you to think about the idea of this because I think it's relevant. And we might get some answers by going down that particular road. That's it, Joe.
Nick, I think the problem is we've been told they're from other planets. Starting in the 1950s with movies, we're told it's from space. As long as they're telling us to look up, I'm saying now look down because I think it's from Earth. It's always been related to Earth. It couldn't be from other planets because in order to have these hybrid kids and the genes and everything match up, it has to be earthbound. And so I think it's interdimensional. And I don't think you could talk about interdimensional without talking about angels and demons. I don't believe it's from space anymore. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
John, I agree with you 100%.
I'm open to that theory. That they're
In fact,
underground, that they're in
what I
hiding, that they've
studied,
been alongside us all this time.
what I studied in the 1990s to 2004 was the underground alien bases in the Walker River Valley. And I documented their ships and I wrote a book on it. And you can go and see it on my web pages. But one of the things, strangely enough, that I was asked to do was to help a woman in need. Back in 1981, I was on a church bus and this voice started speaking to me saying that there's somebody who needs help. If I bring her to you, will you help her? And I said yes, not knowing what was going to happen. And a couple of years later, I met her at my dentist's Christmas party. and she was the woman that I stayed with for 7 years to the day. And what is really interesting is that after she died, I was introduced to our children, which she said were born to her when she was 17 and still a virgin. And they were taken. And then I got to meet them floating over my bed in spacesuits. Now, I've not been able to meet them personally, but I also found out that one of them graduated from Princeton University. And I got a picture of her on one of my web pages, and she looks very much like me back then at that age. So there are twin daughters I have, plus a son that were from Bonnie's eggs, and they were born before I ever met Bonnie. I met her a couple years after they were born. Now, how do you explain that?
Synchronicity.
Amazing. That's why I said there's a lot of men who have just as, amazing stories as well that I've been hearing. So what do we
And what
make
is
of
even more amazing, and I'm going to take a chance and reveal this, is that Bonnie, who died on the 12th of January 1991, she came back. She was reborn just in the previous month, and she searched for me and found me in my high school yearbook. And she says, I was Bonnie.
Wow.
Well, it's a big universe and it's full of wonder.
Mm-hmm.
We'll probably never know all the answers either.
I know. But I have to say, Bruce, I was able to now see what you posted on the chat. And those are photos. So in 1991, before the experience with Elijah, I actually heard that or felt that there was something inside me that didn't belong. And I started having a lot of cramping. And this is after my daughters were born. And I had gone to the doctor and he said, it's probably just muscle strain. You have a little one, you keep picking her up, it's just, take some muscle relaxants. You're fine, you're fine. But I felt, no, there's something inside me. So call it intuition, voice in my head. I don't know. Something was inside me that did not belong. So I actually went back and I said, I want you to do a laparoscopy on me. I want you to look inside my uterus. I actually demanded it. And he literally said, what are you, crazy? That's minor surgery. Why do you want that? I said, because something's inside me that does not belong and I need to rid myself of it. So he scheduled the appointment. He said, you'll go in the morning, he said, maybe there's fluid, could be a cyst on your ovary, and I can just aspirate it with the laparoscopy. I said, okay. I went in, I was told I would go home that afternoon, but I woke up from anesthesia and the nurse said, Maria, you had major surgery. And I said, what do you mean? What do you mean? And the doctor came in and he explained the whole procedure, and Bruce just posted the report. I was a little surprised that I don't remember that but now it's there, it's up there. So basically, when he went in, what looked like fluid happened to be what he described as a free floating fluid filled sac. Two of them.
Right, you
And
talked about that.
he said that he actually scooped it out with his hands. It fit into the palm of his hand. And I have the photos because the nurses took photos of it and they put it in a jar, specimen jar. But I never got any details. of the results because back then, again, I knew nothing about any of this. I hadn't had the experience with Elijah. I thought there were just strange things happening in my life. But now, years later, I look at this report and I see these objects that were inside me that were undetectable by ultrasound because they did that before I went in for the laparoscopy. It was undetectable, so they were free floating. They could move. And it makes you wonder, is this what they were doing to women? We have no conscious memory. I had no conscious memory of objects being placed inside me, but is this what is being used inside of women to host supposedly alien hybrid children? I don't know. But I was glad to get them out of my body.
If
I
I
have a
may,
question.
let me reiterate, and I asked several times, she was told by this guy that they didn't take something out of her, this woman who worked for me, that looked like an alien baby. He said, no, there was an alien baby in you. They removed it and they got it out of here for investigation. That's why they descended on you before you were ever out of the recovery room. So make no, it's just not something that looked like it with a Rorschach test. He was very clear. He said, I took the pictures. And he said, I'll never forget. So don't think you're losing your mind because I saw it. I took the photos and I was sworn to secrecy. So you are not insane. There was something in you that they wanted out of here and out, off the public record. So when I went back and looked about 5 years later, just a sidebar of that, I contacted them and I had some connections because I was working in New Jersey, the first satellite hospital-based network. I was running their facility, their uplink and studios, and I had some connections there. I said, "Hey, can you look into this?" And they said, "Well, there's really not any direct way," but the guy did some poking around, and he said, no, he says, everybody got real hush hush when I asked about that because I had the time frame it took place in. But this is New Jersey Hospital Association, and these are higher up top people in that organization, as well as the American Hospital Association. And that was all 50 hospitals in the state of New Jersey at that time. So I'm just telling you that this guy said, no, there was an alien baby in you that they took out. It wasn't a growth that looked like that. I just want to make that clear that maybe it's a lot more prolific than we.
I need to ask Camille a question.
There was actually a lot of things going on. The Russians have been, ever since World War II, were doing a lot of experimentation on humans, even cloning humans with other species. And anything that our enemy did, chances are somebody on our side was doing as well. If for no other reason, just to make sure nobody got a one up on us. And consequently, there's a lot of work. You had MK Ultra. There's programs that we'll never know the names of. And I think that possibly, especially experimentation going on with orphanages, in mental institutions, that was not extraordinary, especially in the 50s and 60s. Consequently, who knows what type of experiments and who got experimented on. It's kind of a scary thing to think of, but it was actually absolutely going on. For instance, there's a closed down mental hospital here in Monmouth County, Marlboro. It was a full-blown state mental hospital. And over the years, it was opened, I guess, in the 1920s, that the graveyard that they have there, that's part of the hospital grounds, they had almost 1,000 people, 1,000 patients that were buried there. Now, I had a friend of somebody I knew pretty well, and she had a company, an environmental company, and she was contracted by the state to come in and characterize the entire site because it was several hundred acres of prime real estate in a nice area, and they wanted to sell it off or do whatever they were going to do with it. So she came in, and so she's looking out throughout all the facility and the grounds, and she came to the cemetery, and she found 3 of the graves out of the 999 graves. 3 of them had radiation. And, so you have to sit there and say, where did that radiation come from? And the only answer could be that there was probably some type of experimentation going on. Now, that's kind of a nasty thing to talk about, but it is something that it has to be considered, especially because we don't know a lot of the stuff. There's different perspectives. John said nothing is, if you look up, you're not looking in the right area. And on the other side of the coin, you talk to an astrophysicist or an astronomer, and they'll tell you now we're up to 1 billion galaxies and trillions of stars. And there is a strong belief that every star has at least one orbiting planet. So if you look at the numbers are incredible, stating that life has to exist out there. Is it going to look like us? No. It could be silicon, it could be whatever. But the thing is that mathematically, there's probably something out there that we would probably like to find, just because living and sentient beings are something they're rare, but
Hey,
still.
Joe,
Yeah.
that's only
Camille?
true if you believe in evolution and you think evolution's true. If you believe in creation, we're it.
Camille, I have a question for you. It's important.
Yes.
Do you know a Billy McNamara? He's
No,
in
not
LA. He's an actor.
top of my head, no.
No, because I've been out in the field in New York with him, and we had a performance put on by the Manta Ray, and you were involved with the Stingray.
Oh, the Sting. Sting the Stingray. Yeah, I don't know. I never heard of him, but that's cool.
You go on Facebook and Instagram, and you can find him there all the time.
Okay, I'll try. McNamara.
Okay, well, it is now, let's see what the time is. It's
906.
9:06. Okay, now I would keep it up, but I think we're probably all a little bit tired. We've worked hard tonight. Okay.
Yes.
And I appreciate first of all, does anybody had a closing question that they needed to have answered while we still have people on? If not, I will take that silence as a no. And I want to thank you all for being here, especially Maria and Camille. It's been a real pleasure having you on. Hopefully, you'll be joining us again. I'm going to keep you on my contact list and send you out for every month. So you're welcome to come back.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks,
And everybody
Be safe.
else, thank you all for your great participation. You're a knowledgeable group, and there's always something to be learned.
Joe, thank you for
Enjoyed it
the
very much.
invite to come tonight. I really appreciate it.
I expect you every month, Harry.
You got it.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Okay, I'm going to post,
you.
as soon as I get this uploaded, I'll post you the link, and you can take it and use it the way you wish.
Thank you, Joe, and
Thank
love
you.
to everyone.
Nice meeting you.
Love to
Thank you.
everyone, everywhere,
Be
everywhere.
safe.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Take
Good
care.
night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.